Destiny, can you define fascism?
Politics is a very fascinating topic, and I really like watching people talking because by watching them talking to each other in debates, I can outsource my own thinking to them. They converse on behalf of my own internal conversation because I think the way we think is like writing down the whole pros and cons essay and find out which one has the stronger foundation, which we can just see in the videos. We live in such a great time. And I think we can just think better if we are ready to accept sometimes we are wrong. And anyways, Jubilee, let's go. And it will have a lot of side notes, so please bear with me and don't forget to subscribe.
My next claim is Donald Trump is a fascist.
Destiny, can you define fascism?
First of all, especially this is a highly abstract topic, getting a proper definition is really, really important. If both parties do not agree on the definition, then you end up talking about different things. And usually the person who defines things bears the burden of proof. And this can be exposed to all sorts of, oh, what about this? What about that type of argument? Because the definitions often do not classify things neat and tidy, but you're the one making the claim, so it's yours.
I would say the two big points for fascism would be ultranationalism and authoritarianism.
Okay, what is authoritarianism?
I would say that authoritarianism is trying to centralize as much power in like a structural sense into one part of the government, and then in a broader sense it usually means undermining a bunch of liberal values that you would find like...
So Destiny says the two pillars of fascism are authoritarianism and ultranationalism. And notice how he says the main component of authoritarianism is centralization of power, and in a broader sense it means undermining a bunch of liberal values. So what he's proposing here is A, massive power, and B, suppression of, for example, freedom of speech. And you see there are two elements, authoritarianism and ultranationalism, and under one element there are two sub-elements, and these two sub-elements do not have to happen simultaneously because it's a matter of scale according to this definition.
Well, then how is it that every part of the government which accrues more and more power to itself every single year aren't a bunch of fascists?
And Andrew here argues that every part of government accumulating more power would be considered fascism according to the definition. And I think this is exactly the way that what about this type of argument is proposed. But every part of government would be plural, and therefore it wouldn't necessarily be a centralization of the power. But instead of pointing this out, Destiny negates what he said before.
Because the government gaining power doesn't necessarily make it fascist. You could say there might be governmental overreach.
And now he says government gaining power doesn't matter anymore. So the point here was supposed to be centralization, and government branches gaining more power for political checks and balances wouldn't be too bad. But this is an obvious blunder, in my opinion.
I'm still not even sure what is fascist here, Destiny.
Exactly. Because the definition was negated by the following statement, so it's very hard to recover.
What is fascism? So Giovanni Gentili, we have definitions of what fascism is. We have third partyists who are out there right now who are fascist. They claim Trump is a populist. Can you tell me why they're wrong and why you're right that he's a fascist?
When I first saw this video, I thought this Andrew was very well prepared because he knew other definitions of fascism, and he asked why their understanding of Trump being a populist is wrong. So here Andrew's pushing that it's Destiny's claim to consider Trump a fascist and imply that he bears the burden to refute others' claims.
To know their exact reasons for why they reject Trump being a fascist, but I would say that Trump is a fascist because I think he's an ultranationalist.
And I think this is why the person claiming something by defining something who bears the burden of proof is really, really vulnerable, because they're exposed to all sorts of, this person thinks that, what do you make of that? That person said this, what do you think of that kind of argument?
These are your claims. These are your claims.
I'm not
right?
claiming anything that those people
You
said. I've
claim
given you my
that
definition
he's-
for
you claim
fascist.
he's a
I gave the two parts. I can
Okay.
explain them more if you
So
want.
let's
and I
start
think
with
that's fine.
ultra-authoritarian.
Why is it ultra-nationalist and authoritarian?
What is ultra-nationalism?
So I think ultra-nationalism is when you engage in a hardcore protectionist ideology that usually involves shutting yourself out from the rest of the world. That could be in forms of international affairs like military conflicts, and it could be in the forms of ultra-protectionist in terms of trade and shutting down things like immigration in order to protect your own native peoples. Oftentimes there's a heavily racialized element, but there might not have to be.
Okay, well, Donald Trump, you're not saying has a heavy racialized element, are you?
I'm ambivalent. I don't really care on that much.
Then they changed the topic to ultranationalism. Here, Destiny argues that ultranationalism is akin to protectionism and international isolationism. But this is like equating a political ideology, ultranationalism, with a trade policy, protectionism. And the most important element of ultranationalism is assertion of national superiority, and it's very difficult to separate it from authoritarianism because another important element here is strong state control.
I think that he
Okay.
qualifies or satisfies the term without that. But
Okay, so let's dive into this real quick. If you have a president who doesn't want to get involved in foreign affairs as far as wars go and has some type of policies which benefit the United States over all of the nations, is he a fascist?
no.
Well, I'm still confused as to what makes Trump a fascist.
That's because I had two parts of that, and you missed the authoritarian one.
Yeah,
What you
okay.
described there before was just like,
So Andrew argues that Trump does not want to be involved with foreign affairs and wants to benefit the US, and this wouldn't lead Trump being a fascist. So this is basically the paraphrasing of protectionism and international isolationism, and unfortunately Destiny negates his own claim. And I think this is a really important part of this debate because Destiny says, no, you thinking these policies being the entire picture of fascism is your fault. I said it's authoritarianism, and Trump is acting exactly like an authoritarian. Personally, I found this debate technique extremely impressive, and I wouldn't be able to spot this if I was in a conversation like this.
protection.
Well, when you said authoritarian, what is he doing, which is accumulating all power to himself?
So he's trying to centralize power in the executive branch of the government and specifically in the presidential part of the government, of the executive branch.
How?
How Donald Trump thinks that he should be able to unilaterally make decisions up and down all of the different departments and offices that exist in the executive branch.
And now they talk about how Trump is trying to accumulate more power in his hand, but this is the flaw in the definition. The original centralization definition had to be also simultaneously including the suppression of rights instead of separating them in a narrower and broader sense.
Presidents use executive orders all the time.
That's not what an executive order is.
Presidents unilaterally make decisions all the time.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they
do.
don't.
They use executive orders all the time.
An executive order doesn't mean that you are taking power away from the departments and offices that have been created.
Right. So where's the fascism here?
Would you like me to give you specific
Yes,
examples?
give me the specific example.
Sure. So when Donald Trump didn't like the answer that he was getting from his attorney general because he was trying to direct the Department of Justice to do investigations or to fabricate claims, that would be an example of trying to centralize power just to the president because he's undermining his own department that's been created for him that's supposed to have some level of independence, that's tasked with doing investigations.
First of all, this has to be fact-checked, and second, it has to be checked whether it was within the authority of the president, but it'll be a lengthy discussion.
Let me ask you a question. Is the President of the United States the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States?
I believe so,
You believe so?
unless something's changed.
Do they have
recently, yeah.
do they have control of the entire military apparatus essentially as the
As
Commander-in-Chief?
the commander-in-chief, yes.
Yeah. Is that fascist?
No.
And now they are on a lengthy discussion on the power of the president, which goes back to the centralization argument. So Andrew's argument here is just because the president has a lot of power doesn't necessarily make him a fascist.
So they have basically almost unilateral control by your own metrics of the most mighty military on planet Earth. That's not accumulating enough power, centralized control to one person. It's the fact that he tried to slay some fucking electors. Really?
So the president being the commander-in-chief is specifically laid out in the Constitution. That's an
Yeah.
authority granted to him.
And Destiny says, hey, the military part falls under his authority.
I don't know what's fascist about
Well,
that.
because
from
you
the
said it's
inception of the
ultra
country.
power. It's this idea of
I
having,
didn't say
of
anything
having
about
central
the
power.
military.
If you have the
about-
central
I
power,
didn't ever bring that up.
So here Andrew goes on again, hey, you said centralization is the key to fascism. This president has the greatest power.
Him, but
If you have the central power
yeah.
of the most mighty military on planet Earth and the codes to the largest nuclear armament on planet Earth, you already have all of the central power, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
How do the nuclear codes help you
Yeah.
direct your Department of Justice?
Okay, I'm sorry. Is he the commander in chief of the United States Armed Forces? Which
Are
he
you
has
just
control of?
arguing that he's the commander? I already agree with you. I don't know why you keep
What
arguing.
I'm
this.
arguing to you is
I'm
that
asking you,
it
how does the
sounds to
commander-in-chief
me-
use the
you don't get
military
to ask
to
me.
make?
It's your
Well, I
claim.
can
I'm
ask whatever
asking
you
you
want.
about
yeah.
your claim,
So
and your claim is
how does that make
he's
him
a
control the
fascist.
DOJ? How does the military help him control the
So
DOJ?
back up. That is the most powerful position I can think of for you to be in, period.
So here Andrew says, hey, this is the most powerful position that I could think of for you to be in. So it was basically a checkmate in my opinion, because if Destiny says, yes, you're right, Trump has too much power and this makes him a fascist by my own definition, then this will be a contradiction because Trump already has more power than anyone. Or if he says, no, he's not, then he will have to refute his own claim and say centralization does not necessarily lead to fascism. Or you go through unending paraphrasing of, no, this is not what I meant, this is not what I said, kind of conversation.
How could
That's
you
a powerful
accumulate-
position.
what
That's a
more-
powerful-
What more accumulation of power would you want for a fascist dictator?
Gotcha. Okay, so that's powerful in that you controlled the military. That's it. That's just control of the military.
Yeah.
For the FBI coming to your house to arrest you, for the DOJ filing charges
send the
against
military
you,
to
for
do
the
it.
EPA, no, the president doesn't do that.
He
I don't know.
could.
If the, no, I
He's
don't believe
the
that he can. I don't believe you can. I don't think that you can
Pause.
deploy
Why
the
can't-
military to arbitrarily arrest
Why?
U.S.
Why?
citizens.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
And they end up talking over each other. But anyways, this was the first part of the conversation and I found it really, really interesting. I wanted to share with you. And I think they're both very extremely impressive. And especially I think Andrew was either very well prepared or he has very agile ability to understand arguments, because Destiny speaks at least 60 to 70% faster than Andrew. But I think it was a very good play. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any ideas or opinions, please leave them in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.